Imagine waking up every morning and believing that your life is completely normal. You have a home, a job, friends, neighbors, and a daily routine. Everything feels familiar. But what if you suddenly discovered that your entire life was being watched by millions of people? That is the strange and fascinating idea behind the Truman Show.
Exactly. Truman thinks he is living an ordinary life, but little by little, he starts noticing things that do not make sense. People behave strangely, events happen at exactly the wrong moment, and he begins to feel that something is not quite right.
A very useful expression here is, something doesn't feel right. We use it when a situation seems strange, even if we cannot explain exactly why. For example, you might walk into a room and immediately feel uncomfortable. You could say, I don't know why, but something doesn't feel right.
That is a great everyday expression. You can use it when something seems unusual at work, at home, or even when you are talking to someone. You do not necessarily know what the problem is. You simply have a feeling that something is wrong.
Another important phrase is what's going on. We use it when we do not understand a situation and want to know what is happening. Imagine Truman seeing people suddenly change their behavior. He might look around and ask, what's going on?
And you can use what's going on everywhere. Maybe you walk into your office and everyone is unusually quiet. You might ask, what's going on? Or you arrive late to a meeting and everyone looks worried. Again, what's going on? Sounds completely natural.
There's also the phrase, are you hiding something? We use it when we suspect that another person knows something but does not want to tell us. It can be serious, but it can also be playful. For example, if your friends are planning a surprise party, you might jokingly ask, are you hiding something?
Truman starts becoming suspicious because too many things seem connected. When strange events happen again and again, he begins to question the people around him. That gives us another useful phrase. I don't trust you. It means you do not believe that someone is being honest with you.
That gives us another useful phrase. I don't trust you. It means you do not believe that someone is being honest with you. If you want to sound softer, you could say, I'm not sure can trust you. This means you have doubts about someone without making such a strong accusation.
That phrase is very direct. If you want to sound softer, you could say, I'm not sure I can trust you. This means you have doubts about someone, but you are not making such a strong accusation.
Another useful expression is, I need to know the truth. You might say this when you feel that someone is not telling you everything and you really want an honest answer.
Another useful expression is, I need to know the truth. This is something you might say when you feel that someone is not telling you everything. It can be used in serious situations, but also in everyday conversations when you really want an honest answer.
And there is a beautiful phrase connected to curiosity. I want to find out. It means you want to discover the truth or get more information. For example, if something strange happens at work, you might say, I don't understand what happened, but I want to find out.
That is exactly what Truman starts doing. Instead of simply accepting what people tell him, he begins asking questions and looking for answers. And that is an interesting lesson for English learners too. When you hear a new expression, do not just memorize it. Ask yourself where you could use it in your own life.
For English learners, these expressions are useful because they describe emotions and situations we experience in real life. When you learn a phrase, try to imagine 3 different situations where you could use it. That helps turn passive vocabulary into active English.
For example, if you learn what's going on, imagine 3 situations where you could actually say it. That small step helps turn passive vocabulary into active English.
So, while you watch or listen to the Truman Show lesson, pay attention to how the characters express doubt, curiosity, fear, and confusion. These emotions are universal, which means the English connected to them can be useful far beyond the movie.
And remember, natural English is often simple. You do not need complicated sentences to express an important idea. Something doesn't feel right. What's going on? I need to know the truth. These are simple expressions, but they can communicate strong emotions. And maybe after this lesson, you will start looking at your own daily routine a little differently. Hopefully, unlike Truman, You will not discover that your neighbors are secretly actors.
Now let's imagine that Truman has become even more suspicious. He starts paying attention to small details that he used to ignore. People repeat the same actions. Strange things happen at the same time, and some situations seem almost too perfect.
That phrase is very useful in everyday English. Imagine you meet the same person 3 times in different places on the same day. You might laugh and say, "That can't be a coincidence." It means you think there may be a reason behind what happened.
This is when another useful phrase appears. That can't be a coincidence. We use it when something happens in a way that seems too unlikely to be random.
And if you want more information, you can simply ask, "What are you talking about?" This is a very common question when you do not understand what someone means. Your tone is important, though. If you say it calmly, you are asking for clarification. If you say it angrily, it can sound like a challenge.
Another natural expression is, something is not right. It is similar to something doesn't feel right, but it can sound a little more direct. You might say it when you notice a problem at work, when a friend is acting strangely, or when you receive a message that seems suspicious.
I really like "what if" because it is such a small phrase, but it can create so many possibilities. You can use it to talk about plans, problems, fears, or even dreams. What if we try something new? Sounds completely different from "what if something goes wrong?"
Truman also begins asking himself an important question: what if I'm wrong? We use what if when we imagine a possible situation. For example, what if I miss the train? Or what if it rains tomorrow?
And that leads to another powerful expression. "I have to find out." It means you feel that discovering the answer is important. If you notice something strange at work, you might say, "I don't know what happened, but I have to find out."
Another useful phrase is, I have a feeling. We use it when we have an idea or suspicion, but we do not have proof. You could say, I have a feeling something is going to happen. In Truman's situation, he has many feelings, but he still needs to discover the truth.
That is how you make vocabulary active. Do not just recognize a phrase when you hear it. Try using it yourself. Say it aloud, change 1 or 2 words, and create a sentence connected to your own experience.
And there is one more phrase that fits Truman perfectly. I'm not giving up. We say this when we decide to continue trying. Even when something is difficult, it is useful for studying English, reaching a goal, solving a problem, or dealing with a difficult situation.
Exactly. Learning English can sometimes feel frustrating, especially when you understand a lesson but then hear a native speaker talking quickly. But that does not mean you should give up. Keep listening, keep repeating, and slowly your brain starts recognizing the language automatically.
When learning these expressions, try changing the situations. Instead of only thinking about Truman, imagine your own life. You could say, something is not right with my computer. I have a feeling I forgot something, or I'm not giving up.
Listen to this part again and choose 2 or 3 expressions that you want to use this week. You do not need to memorize everything. If you can take a few useful phrases and actually start using them, that is real progress.
So today we learned expressions for suspicion, uncertainty, curiosity, and determination. That can't be a coincidence. Something is not right. What if? I have a feeling and I'm not giving up.
And in English, asking questions is one of the best ways to keep learning.
And maybe the biggest lesson from the Truman Show is simple. Sometimes the most important thing is to ask questions.